A number of months ago, the popular gacha game Genshin Impact came under fire for its character design choices for the new region added to the game, Natlan, a region based on the cultures of, and I quote from the Genshin wiki itself, pre-Columbian Latin America, Sub-Saharan Africa, and Oceania. I've also seen some people say the Aztecs, and that's cool, that's great. And then I look at the roster and I see a handful of pale-skinned boys and girls with, a little bit of tanning. And I don't know, isn't it a little weird? This is Genshin Impact, the game that seems like it wants to accurately pay homage to all these different cultures around the world, and they do a great job of it too. They got Europe, Chinatown, Japantown, Francetown, Desert Town, etc. All the while they develop beautiful architecture, music, and clothing that seem to accurately portray the different cultures around the world. It's truly impressive. And if I honestly think about it, I don't think I've played a more culturally diverse game before. But the one problem comes down to the representation of different skin tones. Personally, I find it kind of silly that Genshin does such a great job of recreating everything around a culture except for the people. Of course, a culture is not boiled down to just the skin color of the people, but regardless, there have been multiple instances of Genshin fans coming out and holding quote-unquote Genshin boycotts, especially on Twitter. A lot of progressive fans of the game think that Genshin should have more diversity in skin tones, saying like, well, they basically came this far to recreate the cultural aspects in the zones, so why stop at skin tone, they say. And this is the topic of today's video. Diversity in Genshin and other gacha games is a serious problem, but only if you care about representation in video games. Which I do care a little bit, but clearly Hoyoverse and the majority of their fans don't. And why would they? That's not what we're here for, and diversity and representation doesn't exactly pay the bills either. And I think this is where a lot of people's grievances come from regarding this topic. I think there's a hard truth that we have to say. East Asian beauty standards and the common character archetypes in anime and manga are basically what dictates what is acceptable and popular in gacha games today. This is my core argument and opinion, but I am 99% sure that this is true. Black people and dark skin are just not super popular in really any hemisphere of gaming, but especially not in gacha games. And this phenomenon is best shown with our old friend Hoyoverse. Hoyoverse is the company responsible for titles like Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and Zenless Zone Zero, which at least seem to me to be the biggest, most hot gacha games on the market, at least for now. I guess you're including like Wuthering Waves and other stuff like that. But personally, I had a decent time with Genshin and Honkai Star Rail, sorry. When it comes to diversity, Genshin is a tremendous triumph in certain areas like I mentioned before, but abysmal for representing different skin tones. That being said, it is still the best in comparison to Hoyoverse's other games. Genshin does in fact have a number of dark-skinned characters, or I guess dark-ish. It never gets darker than a light caramel, let's be honest. So for all the shit that I give Genshin, I could at least respect them for that. So that's great. We have a handful of dark-skinned characters and they look pretty good. But wait, there's another issue. The characters are shit. This next part is going to hinge a lot on my own experience and opinion as a free-to-play gacha gamer. I know, sue me. But these characters are weak. They are low tier every single time. Most of the time. You could argue that in Genshin Impact, the overworld content is piss easy though, right? So you don't necessarily need a powerful character anyway. And to that, I would say sure. But what about the challenge content like Spiral Abyss? Content where you want to push the power limits of your account. My personal and admittedly petty issue with this whole thing is that I can't play a cool or sexy dark-skinned character in the hardest content of the game. Try as I might, my Constellation 4 Xinyan with a Wolf's Gravestone could not make it to floor 12, and that just kinda sucks. Not because I'm super crazy about representation or anything, it's just that I can't be delusional and parasocial with the character that I want, while using them in endgame content. I know, being well. Now, Genshin seems to be Hoyoverse's best effort at including different skin tones, even though that's just a teensy-tiny bit. What happens if we look to their other highly successful and hot games, Honkai Star Rail? I did play a bit of this game, and I did actually enjoy it a fair bit, actually. The soundtrack is very hype, and the turn-based JRPG combat is surprisingly addicting and fun. But wait a minute, who's that black character? Oh, it's Arlon. You know, that one character from Release who is placed firmly in the bottom tier of most people's tier list. Quite literally one of the worst characters in the game. Can you use him in late game content? Sure. It won't be easy because he's weak as hell, but you can try. You see what I'm getting at, right? In Honkai Star Rail, Arlon is the one and only playable character in the game with any sort of melanin in his skin, and he is demonstrably bad, like thrown to the wayside. Even in Zenless Zone Zero, we have the same kind of thing. In the universe of Zenless Zone Zero, you'd sooner find a wolfman in bondage gear, a blue demon girl, or a rip-off Jack Black Kung Fu Panda than a single black person. They have it all, except for... I'm not upset, I'm just disappointed. These games all have fun things about them in their own right, but one big reason why I eventually quit gacha games altogether is because, as a person who enjoys dark-skinned women, there's just no viable way forward with these games. And we know exactly why that is. Unfortunately, the vast majority of gacha fans and anime nerds don't think the way I do. If they did, you'd best believe that Hoyo and other gacha game companies would be filling their games to the brim with black characters. These companies are optimizing for sexual and or intimate attraction to their characters. That's the business model of gacha games. Let's be honest, gacha games benefit tremendously from the audience forming strong emotional and intimate bonds with their characters. Nobody's really here for the story, we're here for the plot. Thus, the practices of the company are simply a reflection of what their audience wants, which is unfortunately not black characters. Now, am I saying that Hoyoverse and other companies should be forced to add more dark-skinned characters and change their views on what they find attractive? No, not at all. Personally, my expectations for these companies are low. So low that it's literally beneath the Earth's crust. I don't think these East Asian companies are going to suddenly change their views on representation any day soon. I will not be holding my breath for that. But would it be nice if they did? Hell yeah. In fact, if Genshin released a strong, viable character that looked like Casca from Berserk, I'd be crawling right back into that shit. But you know what? That ain't happening. So, in the meantime, I will continue running it down on League, which is arguably even worse. Have a good one.